And I tried to meet with the tax collector on those couple of issues, but he was busy. He couldn't get
So it won't start being effective until July.
Well, the formalities won't start until then.
Right. So we'll see the first check too.
Well, no, it'll start in, correct.
What's it first year?
That's correct, that's
True
correct.
bonuses won't be generated.
That's correct, that's correct. Well, there
Okay.
It's usually Donna had a hot flash earlier, so it's freezing in here. No, it feels good. I'm right
I
there
had to
with
put
you,
my
lady.
coat back on. I need gloves.
You need to put a heater under your seat then.
About to be, I guess. Yes.
I saw him on Donaldson Point the other day dropping kids off.
He's retired master sergeant, drives school bus.
He's coming.
Is he here?
Yes, he just walked in.
You ready?
I did call you that.
Are we recording?
Exactly.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Parker Special Council meeting for the 11th of January, 2023. It's a little different than a regular council meeting in that items from the audience won't come until we get to the third or fourth portion of the agenda for tonight. First thing I'd like to do is have the city clerk call the roll, please.
Ms. Burrow. Here. Mr. Chappell.
Here.
Ms. Galbraith. Here. Ms. Gibson.
Yes.
Mayor Kelly.
Here. As we proceed forward with this evening, as the motions are made or not made, there will come a time when you can come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And you'll have 3 minutes in which to state whatever it is you'd like to talk about that on the subject matter. Tonight, our employee, Ms. Purdue, will keep the clock. And if you have anything you'd like to state, just please get up, walk to the podium, and take turns, and state your name, your address, and she'll run the clock. And we'll try to answer all your questions as best we can. So the only item on the agenda for tonight is a single line item for ad valorem tax. The reason that ad valorem tax is on there is because we have some major infrastructure needs in the city of Parker, and we do not have the general revenue to be able to maintain public works and run the city with franchise fees. We just don't have it. Your water bill no longer is sufficient to cover public works maintenance. And we're proposing 3.8 millage. That's about $800,000 a year. It's not all we'll need, but it's a good start. And as the new construction happens and the new businesses come in, we'll all benefit from that tax revenue that brings with it. So really that's the meat of what we're talking about. It's the money will go directly to Public Works to offset the cost that they currently pay to fire, police, and Public Works to run the other emergency services. I have not personally seen the videotape, but Mr. Sumlin has, of the cameras that they put inside the water and sewer lines. And if you drive around the city like I do, you'll see sinkholes in the road, soft spots in the road, Park Street, all up in that part of the city, about every 10 or 12 feet where the underground pipes are leaking or failing, the road is failing. And it's not cheap. It's more expensive than anything else we've ever done. And that is the reason I'm asking the citizens and the council to support this 3.8 ad valorem. I open the floor to you, council.
For us to begin discussion with the citizens, do we need to make a motion in a second so that
You have to have a motion in a
Okay.
second, then I'll open the floor for public discussion.
Okay. So I will make a motion to pass the 3.8 ad valorem tax.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
And just for clarification, this is just to start the process. There'll be a longer process down the line.
Yes,
We have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chapel seconded.
Mr. Chopper, you seconded it? Okay, we have a motion and a second. So one of the things I should tell you is that even if we're able to have ad valorem tax, we won't get it this year. We've got to make it through another year, year and a half. The money that we borrowed to pay for the sports complex through FEMA is starting to finally filter back into the city. All of the work you see going on throughout the city is money that we're getting from the feds or from the state. So I open the floor now to all of you. If you would like to come to the podium before I ask for a vote and tell us what it is you think or what would you like to know or any questions you may have that I can help you with or the council can help you with. Go ahead, sir. Please come to the podium.
Chuck Tyndall, 1201 East Park.
Yes, sir.
I support this. Even though I look young, I'm a Reagan Republican.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, I'm a anti-tax guy.
Yep.
But to me, this all boils down to whether we want Parker to be a city or Parker to be a part of Callaway or part of Springfield, God forbid. And I do support it. It's going to cost me some money, and I realize that. I think the question I have is if this passes, what happens next?
How's the tax collected?
Well, yes, and how is it used? And how is it communicated to the citizens? In other words, if I got $800,000, I just keep it in my pocket. I wouldn't say anything to anybody.
Right. Well, that's not going to happen. While
I
I'm here.
realize that, and
But
that's a bad example.
What would happen is this. I'm going to get Sloan to explain the tax laws to you and how this would happen through the tax appraisal office. But the money would be used for initially infrastructure repair. Now,
Well, I'm on the infrastructure committee, and we haven't met in a year.
yeah, I can't.
So I'm just wondering, you know.
Not that money that you get from infrastructure sales tax. It would be infrastructure that the city already has
Okay,
to
well,
repair, not incoming funds used for the infrastructure by the infrastructure sales tax. That's what you guys handle, and you do a good job on that. This would be to do major repairs
Understand.
of the water and sewer system of the city of Parker. You may have noticed the line that's being put in right now, starting in the curve, coming around the corner into Parker. That will be a new 8-inch water supply line that will then put water on the opposing side of Tyndall Parkway. Finally, after decades, we will have water on both sides. So the property from CB Sales, where the apartments are, to the old Wayne's Barbershop will now have a water system from that line that's going through here.
Well,
But the money that you're asking me now is what would happen to it. It would become part of the regular income for the city, and it would be in the budget annually for whatever was the needs were at that period of time. And I know for a fact that the infrastructure is absolutely the priority right now. Nothing would go to fire, nothing would necessarily go to police, unless we had to pay for dispatch. That's something that maybe in the future having to pay for dispatch. But currently, we are in desperate need of that income to repair the water system.
so that income will be, how do I say this?
It would be a line item in the city's budget.
Thank you. That's
And
what I was.
the council would vote on all of it, just like we do now. And the departments would then use that revenue to run the city with.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
basically the meat of what it is. Thank you, sir.
Can I tag on and ask a question at this point? This is going to be probably a question that we're gonna get from the majority of the citizens out here. And it's the number one question that I get when people call me in reference to how are we gonna spend the money? Are we going to be transparent? And this is obviously very new to the city of Parker. Is there any reason that we could not set up some kind of an oversight committee that could be involved with and see how the money is being spent?
Well, it would be in the fiscal budget. There'd be no problem with that. But we don't know that we're even gonna get it just yet, Ms. Galbraith. We haven't voted on it.
I'm assuming that if we assume that it passes, is there a reason we couldn't do
No,
that?
no, not that I'm aware of, Mr. Sloan.
No, you could, set up
Just
whatever
a-
oversight
yeah.
you want to.
We could, we
Okay.
could, hold on one second. The question, sir, was how would the money be collected? Would you please explain that to the audience?
The money would be collected, under the, taxation of the county tax collector. They send out the tax notices, they collect on behalf of the county, the school board, and if the city chooses to levy an ad valorem tax on behalf of the city. That's also where your non-ad valorem assessments would also, be indicated. Then the money comes in, and periodically, then the tax collector would remit the portion that is the city's portion to the city. And that process is, dependent upon the tax collector and some other issues. So that's how it would be done. They'd get it on their tax bill, that would come out roughly end of October, beginning of November, and they'd see it there.
So, Mr. Sloan, what is the time frame if this passes? What is the process, and how would it be on this year's tax bill? Would it be on 24's tax bill? How would that work?
Well, I haven't met with the tax collector yet, but my impression is that that if you start the process now, when the tax collector certifies the tax value of the non-exempt properties in the city, which is roughly around July the 1st, then that kind of starts the ball rolling for y'all. There's some publication requirements, things that have to happen within certain periods of time. And then before October 1st, in other words, the end of this fiscal year, you would actually levy the tax, as well as, recite any non-ad valorem assessments that are to be on individuals' tax bills
So
for
you're
this
saying
year.
tax year, is that tax year fiscal? Is that or are we talking October, or are we talking the end
It
of?
would show in this year's trim bill if it was assessed by
Okay.
July. So it wouldn't be due until then you got the bill next year.
You'd
But
be
you get
getting
your
your
trim bill
about
comes out now,
November.
doesn't it? August, September, the trim comes out. Sir, if you would, please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Stephen Youngblood, 1225 Stratford and 5216 Sewell Drive. I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
for this. The old people in this town, you're gonna run them off. My mother's on a fixed budget. Her doggone house insurance just doubled. I doubt I'll have house insurance next year if mine doubles. We can't take no more. We're not making any more at work. We can't take our grocery store, our everything else can't take no more. If you want to go around these boat ramps and charge me $50 to launch a boat here, I've told you, half the people from Callaway could come over here and help us pay some things. There's ways to get money without putting it on the burden of these people. Parker has more parks than anything, like the name. We have all the boat ramps. We can charge for that. I don't mind buying a permit. I don't mind giving the money if I don't use it to you. But
So
the
we look-
old people can't take this. I mean, I've got several old people that says, I guess I'm just gonna have to sell my house and move to the county. My neighbor done it.
So
He's got his house for
let me
sale.
answer your first question. I support what you're saying, and I think we should charge for boat launch.
Yes.
Except we built it with federal funds. Can't charge people.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you get around that, but I'm just telling you.
Course, we wouldn't
can't-
have
we
it if it
can't
wasn't
take
for the
no-
government.
We live in Parker because we don't want to live in Panama City. I have my business in Parker because I wouldn't have a business in Panama City. If this keeps on, I will be in Bay County, or I'll be in Apalachicola, or I'll be somewhere else.
But
I'll
as
be
it-
like my neighbor. I'll be selling. Both of my neighbors, they're both selling. They're gone. They're leaving. The old people are going to start leaving next. We can't take no more. Everything's going up. Enough is enough. I mean, times are going to get harder. In the next 3 to 4 months, it's coming. Really coming.
I understand that, sir.
And we can't take any more money out of our budget. We're having to feed people. I'm having to feed neighbors that can't feed themselves because they can't afford their medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, leftovers. I take them meals. I mean, I hope other people do that too.
Yes,
I
sir.
take old people meals every afternoon so they have something to eat. Because after they buy their medicine, they don't have no money.
Yes, sir.
Their
It's been
water
a constant
bills,
problem.
$81 for an old woman living by herself for water and sewer.
Right.
I mean, she don't flush the toilet that much.
She won't flush it at all if we don't fix
Well,
the sewer. line.
I understand that, but I mean, this is not the way. We can't swing.
I'm
them.
open to suggestion while we sit here.
I don't know if we federal. I mean, this got
We
damaged
have-
by the hurricane. We know that.
No,
You know, a lot of this did.
this is deterioration from use.
Well, a lot of this got damaged by the hurricane. We've had dips. We got sinkholes now that where we didn't have
But-
sinkholes before.
So we put camera in the system,
Yeah.
and the hurricane didn't select the seams of the pipes to make failure.
Yeah.
That just through use.
Right.
It just wore out.
Use and bad welds, probably.
Well, they're butted together under the earth.
Yeah.
And we thought about lining the pipes to try to ease by and get by for a few more years. They end up being cheaper to replace them than it was to line them. We've got neighborhoods in Parker, when our trash truck goes around to pick up the yard debris, the right rear set of wheels that are up against the curb collapse into the
Well, I got one
blacktop.
right in front of Mom's house there where the road's got a sinkhole under it. But I mean, there's an underground river. We had a study done on that property. That's why we only are built on that one side.
Right.
Because there's an underground. Parker has all kind of underground rivers running under.
It does.
And that's why it
does.
collapses. I mean, I don't have the solution, but I'm
Okay.
just telling you, the people of this community can't take it. The old people are going to be run out.
All right,
Mr. Youngblood, I totally understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. I campaigned on no ad
Yeah.
valorem tax. I've sat here for the last year and a half. I've seen the budgets. I've seen the information that came from the rural water district. If we do not pass this ad valorem within probably 2 years, there will not be a Parker.
Well,
and you will
understand-
get. But
I
so here's
understand
the
that.
thing: if we do not pass this ad valorem, we either get someone will take us at whether that's Bay County, Springfield, or Callaway, and you know what they have? Ad valorem
And then
and
the people will
fire
still leave.
and fire tax.
I understand that.
So
So it looks
I'm
like
paying
they're
the
just
same
going
thing,
to
and it
force us out
sucks.
at some point. One thing I don't like what happens, and I know you may not have your hands are tied. We spend thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for surveys and engineering studies, the things we already know. That's where all our money goes. We get an engineering study to tell us what we already know we need to do. I mean, we know things got to go downhill.
So-
I mean, we spend the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on all these. We could use that money to fix these sewer lines.
No, it's not even close to being enough. It's not.
Well, over all these years, I mean, I've been promised a dredge out from where the stuff's gone in the bio
Right.
for the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And when Hendricks was here, that was promised. That never happened.
Yeah, when Mayor Hendricks was here, it
And,
did
the
get
money was
dredged.
appropriated. All that disappeared.
All the
There's
dredge
been a
was
lot
pushed
of
up
money
on Center
wasted.
Street.
There's been a lot of money wasted that could have
When you
settled
apply
this
for
problem.
grants, one of the things that you are asked to provide is an engineering study.
Yeah.
Whether you get the grant or don't. And most grants, when you apply for them, I've applied for thousands. You don't win. You never win the grant. Not always. You might get 1 in 50.
Right.
But you still got to pay for the engineering study and the survey to be done to get it done. Our fire station is a rated fire station only because of a grant.
Right.
If it wasn't for the grant, we did not have $480,000 to
Right. I
renovate
get
the building.
grants all the time too. I know
So,
about filing.
and as far as the dredge, I'm with you. I want the bayous dredged out. Everybody's water's
Yeah,
getting
but I
shallower
mean, I'd
and
rather have
shallower.
the sewer system fixed first. I mean, I understand priorities.
Right.
We want the sewer and the water to flow to the houses.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
we have to do priorities. I understand that.
Yeah.
Everybody else is having to cut. We might have to cut. We may have to look.
There was 7,000 left. That was it in our budget this year. 7,000.
Well,
If-
that's
if-
not
this-
it's not a good sign at all. But I mean,
But if we fix this now, we can stay Parker. We can do the things we got to do. If we can make it through
how
a
much
year,
you talking per house?
and it varies on the value of your home.
Yeah.
You can go to the Bay County Tax Appraiser's
See, that's the
website,
thing. You got some
And
of
you
these
could
old
dial-
people that bought these houses on the water back when they were nothing.
right?
And now they're paying more taxes than they even paid for the house. I mean, that's what I'm dealing with. I mean, you got old people on fixed budgets that property was $1,600 for a waterfront lot in 1962.
Yeah.
They got a $25,000 house on there.
Yeah.
Now the neighbor next door is selling for $750,000.
Yes, sir.
There ain't no way that property's worth that kind of money.
No, sir.
And that poor old lady ain't gonna be able to pay it. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. Anybody else, please come to the podium.
Mark Riga, 1503 Dover Road. I know you all have a very tough decision to make, and if the alternative is that we get to stay Parker because we can move forward with this ad valorem tax, I'm all for it. But I wondered if you'd considered perhaps a term limit on this. Treat it more like a special assessment, where we know that we have these costs before us. I think what a lot of people may not be voicing is, where does this go, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when you're not here anymore? I trust this group. You're the first council member and mayor that I've really become associated with, and I trust you to make the right decisions. And I know you get a tough decisions, but I think you might make it more palatable if you thought about putting a 5-year term limit on this thing, or at the very least, review with the citizens of Parker what expenditures we are going to face, and then what this tax is going to mean. We're hearing trim notices, we're hearing $380 per $100,000 worth of assessed value. That to a lot of people, that doesn't compute. So if you identify what it is, and then at least on the forethought, put a term limit out there that says we will look at this thing hard in 5 years, and if these expenditures have been met, we'll back away from it. Make it a little, keep Parker kind of a palatable place to live. I think most of us fear the unknown, and to me, the unknown is where this thing could go. So I think if, Mayor, during the town hall session, I think you talked about, you would be willing to review what these costs are.
Absolutely.
And then take a vote on an annual basis, so that the citizens.
Well,
of
I don't know
Parker-
if we could do it annually. It would have to have a time frame. I'd have to find out what the legalities were.
Well,
But this infrastructure for the water and sewer, Mr. Rager, is just part of the problem. We don't have enough revenue to do all of the road paving. For decades, the city of Parker has applied a half an inch of blacktop to a road and called it resurfaced. That is not resurfaced.
Oh, I
That is
noticed
just
that.
skinned over, just to get by, basically, We need to move, Mr. Summerlin's in the process of taking care of the road there by Parker School. It's got to go all the way back down to the bedrock. The days of getting a road paved, everything is doubled or even tripled in public works.
Yeah.
Price of fuel went up, then it went down, now it's climbing back up. It just costs money now that we never had to have in the past, just to be able to maintain water and sewer. Now, I don't think 10 years of 3.8 will be enough to cover all of the water and sewer in Parker. I don't, but I do know this: once the south side of Tyndall Parkway has water and sewer applied, those lots that have been undeveloped for many, many years will start to become developed. And as those lots get developed, and if you can imagine in your mind coming off that brand new Air Force base onto that brand new renovated Tyndall Parkway, all that people bringing in restaurants or hotels or whatever will be paying that ad valorem tax. And maybe sometime in the future we could readdress it, but annually would be too soon. It would be way too soon.
May I go another minute or so? I know the time.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You explain a lot, and we appreciate that, but it took up a lot of my time.
That's okay, sir. I got until the morning if you need me to stay here.
But I do think that if you at least put a term limit out there and said, this council, whatever council, when you guys may or may not be here any longer, in 5 years, we'll look at this thing hard again and then determine if it has to continue, or if it could go down, or maybe it has to go up. I don't know. But I think putting a term limit and treating it like how we're defining it right now as a special assessment due to the unique situation we have where an entire sewer and water system has to be rebuilt. They just did this in Panama City, and the pipe that was there is 50 years old. So hopefully whatever they do here will last at least that long, and then perhaps we won't see these kinds of expenses in the future. So just to summarize, think about a term limit. Treat it like a special assessment. Think about a time frame where the citizens get a chance to hear, okay, look, now we've got whatever the next project is that we have to incorporate, and then we have to spend the money. If we have to, we have to. We get it. But at least think about a term limit and treating it like a special assessment would be my key
Okay, sir.
focus on this thing.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your
I appreciate you.
Mayor,
They
can
were-
I clarify a couple?
Yep, go ahead,
Yes, the ad valorem tax and the budget are reviewed annually. There will be public notices and public hearings on an annual basis. The council has to reaffirm whatever ad valorem tax they want to have on an annual basis. So it will have, in essence, an annual review. So every year, the citizens will have an opportunity to hear and see what's in the budget and to participate in the process so that the citizens can help the council determine what ad valorem tax, if any, is needed.
Mr. Sloan, that helps a lot. Thank you for that. That's helpful because
Right.
even if we don't have the term limit, at least we get visibility to it. And again,
Every
it's
year.
not a trust issue. It's just this is our money issue, and we just want to know where it's going. And that's the key focus.
Gentleman in the far left corner. If you would come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. You got 1 minute.
Wait, he got 3.
Yeah, but you'll have 20.
I just want to address the concerns that
Sir,
you
what's
made.
your address?
Oh, Paul Palmer, 1135 West Street, aka Goofy Guy. So, people who've lived here a long time, just because their neighbor's house has been appraised at a higher value, really doesn't change their appraisal other than I don't remember what the number is of the incremental that they're allowed to do.
3%.
Huh?
3%.
3%. So they're not going to be hit as hard by this as you might think. Number two, I can speak from personal experience that as we get older, the having a local police force and a local fire department is a service that these older people use even more. I can't tell you the number of times our local fire department has come down our neighborhood and we're the first on site for people who had a heart attack or a fall. So these are services that we need, and that if we delegate, we can't have a community without those services, and it's much better to have these services where we can look them in the eye, they live in our neighborhoods, etc. So I just wanted to address that issue of the impact on the older people. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Shortest talk I've ever done.
Mayor.
Glenn Pepper, that's 2 N's, 5315 Thornton Lane. A couple questions. I guess, I asked this question last August of 2022 when my road was getting repaved. We got school buses bouncing all
Yep.
over. Is they're gonna have to pull through the piping first before they pave it? Is that what it looks like?
Can you tell me what the projected date for his road repave is? Is it on the list?
His Thornton Lane is, and we have already, that's one reason why his road is in such worse condition, is because we already replaced all the water lines down that road.
Okay.
Instead of paving.
There's your
Yeah,
answer.
because I at one time I was number 4 on the list back in August of 22. Next question was, it's not really directly, but we love the nice new dog walk park, basketball courts, tennis courts. Where's going to be the evening lighting? The lighting for at night, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, there is.
We're working with FDNL right now to see about possibly.
So it is coming in, right?
Well, we're working with, we don't have the funds for it, but we're working with FDNL right now to see if the city might be able to opt into, basically, we just pay Florida Power Light for doing everything.
Sure.
As a
Yeah, I've been seeing being used a lot lately, and
Very
it gets
popular.
dark, and they like to play at night.
Matter of fact, I was asked today if it was possible to put in some more pickleball. Apparently, people love pickleball.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that I would like to see, you'll see some power poles go over
Right.
there now because of the need for the CCTV that we're gonna have to put in. We've sustained a lot of vandalism. And
Already?
all of it. Day one, before it opened, we had vandalism.
Okay.
So, as we move on, some of this money will go for security systems, and it will go we're waiting for FPNL right now to run power to a pole so we can illuminate and put cameras at the back of the park.
Right.
Most recent thing was somebody drove over a irrigation well and made $25,000 worth of damage when they dropped the well shaft down in the aquifer.
Oh, wow.
So we little by little take 2 steps forward and go 3 steps
Yeah.
back. But we're working on
All
it,
right.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody? I'm open to anything. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. 2 minutes.
I don't need to.
No, you have as long as you need.
1 minute.
Go
to
ahead.
hear him 1 minute. Kimberly Riga, 1503 Dover. Mr. Sloan, you said that this will be reviewed annually, and you said that the citizens would be able to participate at that time.
Correct.
If you were going to be here for 20 years, I wouldn't be standing here.
You would what?
If you were going to be here for the next 20 years, I wouldn't be standing here. I'm just letting you know that. So, what recourse do we, as the citizens being taxed, have?
I won't be
if we
alive in
don't-
20 years, ma'am.
I know, that's why I'm up there. That's what I mean.
Okay.
If you were going to be here, I would trust the process.
Yes,
is what
ma'am.
I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Thank
what
you.
recourse do citizens have if they disagree with the taxation that they're being faced with?
Well, you always have the power of the ballot box, and
So it's voting.
you can elect the city council members that may be aligned with your thinking.
Okay,
if
that's fine. You don't have to go into detail. You just have to say, that's our recourse. We vote. So we either
Well, you can come and
choose-
participate and perhaps change the mind of the, whatever current council is sitting there discussing the budget. I mean,
Okay.
I can't speculate for 2 years, 5 years down the line
I would
who's
ask
gonna
you
be
to.
here, but
I'm not
you have
crazy
that
about
opportunity.
speculation. I'd just
Yeah.
like to know, when you say that, other than voting, there's no other recourse. So we do have to participate to say yes or no via the voting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, come on up. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Cynthia Rosso. I'm at 1440 Dover Road.
Yes, ma'am.
When you say that we have this urgent need for infrastructure, and your priorities are water pipes and roads,
Water and sewer, ma'am,
sewer,
and then road surfacing.
has anyone done the math on how much this is going to cost the city? Anyone on the council?
Mr. Summerlin, could you give a more accurate answer than me? Are we over 50 million yet?
Mr. Nally said that the water system, the 50-year-old water system, just the current state of pipes is 18 million is what its value was.
Okay,
There you
so
go.
that's a
That's
figure.
just the water.
That's
just the
not
water.
the sewer.
I guess what would have been helpful if there was an information sheet for all the citizens.
Yes,
to-
ma'am, we've had many, many meetings about this.
meetings, but I'm saying an information sheet, because to throw out a number, at least it's something to look at. Okay, and then whatever, if there's a number for, you're talking about what, that was road resurfacing? How
Water
much-
water lines.
Water lines, but road resurfacing, how
Can't
much
put-
is that going to be?
Mr. Can you guesstimate it?
We will have,
Did you have a sheet?
Didn't we have a sheet at didn't you prepare a sheet for us? At the last meeting, Tuesday.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed it, my time's running out, but
No, you go ahead.
my question then too is, did anyone do the math on if we get assessed or get taxed at this 30% increase or whatever, and it's for X number of years?
It's not 30%.
Okay,
ma'am.
what is it? What is the millage?
3.8.
3.8. Collected from 2,000 homes or whatever it is
It's
for the
based
next
upon
5
the
years?
value of your property.
Okay, well, did anyone do the
Yes,
math?
ma'am.
Okay.
It was all at the town hall meeting.
Okay, I missed it. I wish someone had posted it. So there was some calculations done.
Yes.
Okay, and does it make sense to everybody? Because maybe another option is to consider being annexed to other cities.
That's
and
not an
plugging
option,
in.
ma'am.
We also
We
have
asked
the
the
ad-
You've
people.
decided not to? Okay.
Well,
We
the-
have the ad valorem rates for the other cities. If we go to a 3.8 ad valorem, we would still be the third lowest. If we go to Panama City Beach's ad valorem is 10.18, Callaway's is 12.91. We would be 13.35. Lynn Haven is 14.26. Panama City's 14.96. Springfield is 15.03.
Okay.
So this is for Parker now. You have to pay an ad valorem assessment for the jail and the buses and all the school, and that's all figured into it. This is just 3.8 for us.
So we would still be the lowest city.
Third.
One of
yeah,
the lowest,
third
yeah.
bottom.
Who's the lowest?
Panama City Beach does not have ad
Oh.
valorem, but they have.
They have none of-
We wouldn't
is
have a
that-
chance of being annexed over there.
We can only annex to one we touch.
Right, so that one really shouldn't. be.
So you
is
wouldn't want to
15.
annex to a city that already was heavily in debt, because we have no debt.
Okay, I mean, so it has been looked at, but it's
Yes,
good to
ma'am.
hear like how we compare and if we
I mean, we
get
ran-
an
we
increase.
ran
Ma'am,
that
we
numbers.
have
doesn't
tried
show.
everything.
Okay.
We've
I-
looked
I
at
just
every
didn't- I never
possible.
saw the sheet, so it would have been helpful if it was
Okay.
posted, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
So-
Appreciate your time.
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir. Come to the podium, please.
I also don't see any reason why we can't put all of that out into some kind of a flyer and get it out into
Well,
emails.
we could, but we need to vote on it first. Let's get it put to bed.
Hi, I'm Bill Libby on Sunset Drive, Free State of Parker. Miss Stacy convinced me that there's going to be oversight. Mr. Tim Sloan convinced me there's going to be a yearly look at. And the mayor's convinced me that we need the money. And I agree with all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Libby. Very, very much, sir. Is everybody in the room happy to live in our little town? How many of you don't want it to be Parker? Because if you want to go over to Callaway, my last check, it was 39 million in debt. You know? I mean, our city runs really, really well with the staff we have and the little bit of revenue that we have in income. This, I know most of you, and I would not tax you if I could avoid this. Like April, I ran for mayor on no new taxes. I don't believe in unnecessary tax, but I also don't believe in bankruptcy. When the governor sent me a letter in the first 30 days that I was mayor that said, if you don't get the books fixed, we're going to dissolve your city. I got it laying on my desk. I look at it every day. And then 90 days later from the comptroller, I get a letter saying, you guys pulled it out of the hat. You're not going to go broke. You're doing the things you need to do to remedy the problems with the city. I keep it on my desk. I look at it every day with the ethics manual. 2 things I look at every morning. And I would not sit here and ask you to do this if I didn't think there was another way to do it. We have looked at everything. I can't even, there is nothing. I mean, the money we even get from traffic citations is minimal. It's just minimal. And Mr. Libby, I appreciate what you just said so much because there was so much heartache and work that went into this. It's just crazy. Is there anybody else that would like to come to the podium? Yes, ma'am, come on.
Patricia Fosick, 1344 Stratford.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I understand the situation that the city's in, but I guess I do have a question that maybe would help other people, me especially. I've only lived here a couple of years.
Yes, ma'am.
And having attended some of the meetings when you first took office, when the new council was first voted in, and then coming back to some of the meetings, I do see that it seems like this problem has been staring us in the face for a long time, and it was just sort
Probably
of swept
40
under the
years.
rug.
Probably 40 years.
I guess, how did that happen, and how can we be assured that it won't happen again?
Ma'am,
Again, I don't know you well enough,
No.
like others do, to say I trust you. I do. I voted for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
But how did we get here?
How we got here was that when the issues came up, people just kicked the can down the road and didn't address the issue.
Okay.
That's precisely what happened. This is a business. We call it the City of Parker.
Absolutely. I
You
wish the
should
feds
run it.
treated
You
it like a
should run it
business.
like a business.
Yes.
You've got revenue in, you've got revenue out. If you don't have enough to put out, then you don't buy it or you don't spend the money. Unfortunately, it does. We do not generate with infrastructure sales tax, with the money from our water and sewer business income. We don't generate enough money to be able to take care of the things that were taken care of in 1965 when the city first was built. They just didn't do it. And as years went by, my predecessors, and I don't mind what anybody thinks, I am telling you fact, they should have dealt with this a long time ago. They should have put at least 1 mil ad valorem into play probably 20 years ago. And then as time went by, what Mr. Rega says is correct. Then they would have seen that they needed to move it to 1.5.
Got it.
They could have moved it to 1.5. And as time went by and they needed to get it to 2 because whatever failed, we get it to 2. That's what we should have done.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
It's more palatable that way.
Yeah, because you can swallow it. The medicine's minimal amount of medicine. But now we've reached the point that we can no longer do the repairs. Public Works does not have the manpower. We get beaten every day, ma'am. We pay people $17 an hour in Public Works, $16 an hour. And Panama City, we get them trained, and Panama City steals them for 21. I can't control that. So all I can do is get the revenue and the money I need to be able to maintain the staff we've got and put in the infrastructure that we need to fix the problem.
Okay.
And I know most people when they drive around the city, I don't want to sound like I'm repetitive, but there are dokes in the road.
Oh yeah.
And what that's from is infrastructure failure. It is. And on the left side of the parkway, the reason it never got developed is because there's no water. You buy a piece of property on the left side of the parkway going to Wayne's Barbershop, you'll never build nothing there because right now there's no water or sewer. None, not a squirt. Can't even pump it out of the bay right there. So we plan to put a water line on that side of the road so that all of Parker, the parkway, will be developed with new businesses and new restaurants and new homes, more like apartment complexes probably on the main structure. And then my vision is to put businesses on Business 98 heading towards what potentially could be the shipyard. And as these new companies come in, they will pay ad valorem tax at today's rate, and we will benefit from it.
Sure.
And what Rega says is true. I mean, if the people on Oak Shore Drive are going to have to give us $500,000 a year, that's what the assessment's about. That's what they're telling me. Then that's going to make an impact on the city of Parker like we've never had before.
Yeah.
And that's why the film convinced me. The guy from the state who doesn't even live in Bay County convinced me. And I realize it's probably a dangerous thing for me to support this, but I will not let the city of Parker go broke. I will not.
Okay.
This is our little city, and I think we should be here in 50 more years when I'm long dead and buried.
Okay.
Buried and dead.
Second question, if I may. Understanding that it's for infrastructure, and you said we have some major infrastructure needs. I think this has been mentioned. Ms. Galbraith mentioned it, as well as I think some homeowners as well. And Cynthia mentioned it as far as what we're talking about: water, sewer, streets. I understand all
Right.
that. I would not only the accountability, but I wonder, can this be specifically designated for infrastructure, not for
think so. No,
firefighting?
No.
Under the law, it can't be done that way.
No, it's given us a budget item to the city council to prepare a budget. And that budget is prepared based upon the needs. The fire department's good right now. They're fine.
Okay,
The
but
police
let's say,
department's gonna have to have some cars.
let's say we have another hurricane. Are we gonna fix the park?
So-
Or, which I like,
That's-
or are we going to
that's
put the
FEMA.
water?
That's all
But what if
So-
we don't get it? What if
Yes,
we don't get
nope,
the
She's
FEMA
got a
money?
good point. She's got a good point.
Are we
Before-
going to focus on
On-
what is needed to sustain this city, not having all these parks and boat ramps and things, which, again, many of us enjoy and
That's-
appreciate?
That's not how that works. The way that it worked with Hurricane Michael
Mm-hmm.
is that the existing park that we had, they basically did the survey and said, this is how much we think it's gonna be for you to rebuild. You spend the money, you build it, we will approve it, and then we will give you your money back.
Correct.
So this money went out basically as a, almost like a loan,
You
right?
front the money. You
We front
front
the money and then FEMA comes back in. So we're not spending money out of our pocket for the parks and all of these things from the hurricane.
So-
That is all taken care of by FEMA.
So the way it works is this: the park was $4 million to renovate the park, put it back as close as we could to the way it was.
Well, it's much, much better than the way it was.
It's better now. It's
Yeah.
better. It's going to get better. It's
Yeah.
going to get better. Slowly, hold on one second, Mr. Summerlin. Slowly, that and other projects in the city were repaired, and the process goes through FDEM, and we have a contractor that helps us to recover the money from FEMA. My bookkeeper told me this week we're now starting to see that revenue start to slowly come back from the feds, because 75% is paid by FEMA in many cases, and 25% is paid by DEM, Department of Emergency Management. And sometimes that's divided by 12.5, and we have to pay that. Now, the way it works is you have to exhaust your insurance first, which is what we did.
Yeah, you've talked
And
about
then
that.
if it wasn't for the staff being able to maintain, the current staff, to being able to maintain the documentation that we currently use, we wouldn't have got this back. I wouldn't have borrowed the $4 million if I thought we couldn't have got it back. So it's slowly coming back right now. Hold on one second. Mr. Sumlin, you have the floor.
Just wanna make sure the figure is correct. 1.4 on the sports complex. The 4 million was all the FEMA projects.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. So we spent 1.4 across the street, and the rest was for other projects throughout the city. And the feds promised it to us up front, so that's why I took the chance.
Okay.
And slowly, they told me yesterday they're starting to see the big checks start to come back. So we slowly pay back the loan. We are going to be out of pocket a little bit of money. You got documentation has to be paid for. Got to pay the contractors. You got to pay, but the vast majority we will get back. Also, kudos to Mr. Summerlin, because he was able to get fantastic amounts of money from the insurance company, and we're still fighting. 4 years, 5 months since they impact, CDR McGuire is still in Tallahassee, still in other parts of New Jersey. I think their offices are fighting to get this money from FEMA because they still haven't closed the storm.
Right.
If that helps you at any.
It does. Thank you very much for your
Well,
time.
I would like to clarify a couple of things, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, I want to clarify something on budget. This ad valorem tax is intended to come in and pay for running the city. The water sewer bills bring in about $800,000 a year. That money will then be used for the infrastructure. Does that make sense? So this money that we're talking about bringing in is actually run the city, because right now we're not running the city on anything other than water bill money.
Right. We use the water bill money to run the whole city, and that makes
then-
the city have a shortfall.
Then, also I want to tack on, how did we get here? And we've said this in the past, but we haven't said it tonight. So I think over the last 50 years of being a city, we've done a really good job of running a solid, balanced budget. But we're at the end of the 50-year life of the infrastructure. That's why we are where we are. The infrastructure is the end of its life, and we're having to repair it.
But that's something that should be planned for.
Absolutely,
from
should
the
be.
day
But-
the infrastructure
but
is built.
it was not.
It wasn't, ma'am.
So that's
And
how we're
that
here
money
now.
from the water, for all of those years that ran the city, that money should have been going back into the infrastructure to
That is
keep
correct.
and maintain, to repair, to do all of that.
That's correct.
And we've always used it to run the city, and we've never had any other revenue. So that's why we are where we are, and that water money is going back to water and sewer.
This tax is gonna be forever.
Could potentially be. Yes.
So if
Can't
the
paint it,
water-
but it's true.
If the water is
That's what I
18
hate about taxes. You know, they, politician tells you I'm gonna take this
Sir,
tax for a little
you
while.
need to come to the
and then
podium with your name and address if you have something to say.
So if the water, the gentleman from Rural Water that came not once but twice to address everyone,
Right.
when he did his review of just the water system, not the sewer system, he's projecting 18 million on the water alone, right? And I want to say, Tony, what was it? Most of it, almost like 80%, 90% of it was at end of life. Almost all of it. Almost
So
100%.
3/8 is on the 800,000. It's gonna take 18 years at that rate just to get that revenue back.
We can put Stephen Youngblood, 1225 Stratford, 5216. This new development down here, you're putting water on that side. See, this is something Panama City Beach does, and this is why they're in the trip they're in, why they have, you build all these condos, they build all them apartments down there. Why is every citizen in Parker responsible for, I know they have to get a lot of water down there, and that's a lot of sewage, and that's a load on our sewer line. I mean, that's just something
I like
we
to
want to
address
think
that.
about too. Did they pay anything?
They
Yeah,
did.
They
You know,
paid an
I mean,
impact
do they
fee.
get some type of assessment fee when they come
They,
in and put
they
these
did.
big things
That-
in?
I believe, and
Do
I
we
could be
charge
wrong.
them extra?
I think it was 750,000, Mr. Summerlin.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to see
I
that.
think it's a little high, but it was over $500,000.
I just, you know, everybody
That
paid,
was the impact
especially,
fee. They did.
especially developers. I mean,
And
And
I
Yes.
agree with you 100%.
because they put a load on us, and then us little guys.
So
I mean, this
they-
is going to be hard to swing. I'm just telling you. I'm
They-
sitting there
they-
calculating.
they-
I'm sitting there calculating it. It's going to
they
be
have
hard
to
swing.
be able to.
Won't be no property insurance anymore. So the next hurricane I get wiped out, I guess I can sell the property.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
I got something to say.
Yes,
A little
ma'am.
while ago, you said that you blamed all of this deal that's going on with these pipes now on all your predecessors.
On all of our predecessors.
Yep, that's what you said. Well,
Yes,
you threw
ma'am.
that monkey on my back too. Okay. Well, you sit through all these budgets, all those years you were fire chief. How come you didn't hear what was needing to be done all that time? You didn't know. You didn't even understand it till you got to be mayor. Is my question.
No, ma'am, I knew exactly what was happening. But I was responsible for the fire department, not making sure the city council did the right thing by the infrastructure.
I'm not saying that. You're. What you were insinuating, you didn't know anything about, none of it.
I didn't say that, ma'am. I knew.
That-
And so did you.
Yeah. And every year we worked on it and we worked on it and worked on it. Like it's every year, every city, you don't have enough money, but you do what you can.
Well, I'm afraid, Miss Barrett, we've come to the end of the tether.
Well,
There's
and
no
I
more
understand
time.
that, but I don't appreciate you sitting there and throwing it off on everybody before you.
Well, if you're the elected to the seat of the mayor, your responsibility is to help run the city along with the city council, and that never happened. That did not happen, because if it did, why did it not happen before I was mayor?
So you're saying, you're putting it off on me that it was partly my fault?
It was absolutely partly everybody that sat behind this bench, just like it is today.
Well,
That's what leadership's about. Anybody else in the room?
May I speak?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, ma'am.
Can I speak one more time?
Yes, you may,
Do I have to state who I am again?
if you'd like to.
Okay, I might have sounded a little terse before, and I want to say thank you, because I do appreciate what you guys do. I know it's hard work. I know it's hard to hear where we're at, and Tanya, you dedicated yourself to this city. I know it's painful to hear that, but honestly, we want to save the city. We have to look forward, and I am very sensitive to people who are going to have to pay this. We are too, especially now, in a time when everything is so expensive. So anyway, I just want to thank you, and I want us to hopefully look forward to building a better city.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, by all means, please come to the podium. Try to remember to ask your questions when you come, because the other people want to talk too, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, well, this is Paul Palmer, 1135 West Street. This is not a question. When I look at this city council that we have right now, I feel we have the best representation across the perspective of the different demographics we have. We've got Ron here, who, the band leader as we call him, the ability to look after all the older people, and we've got Tanya, who is consistently always looked after the people that were on the poorer end of the town, which we have a lot of. We have April, who brings a lot of vision for the new parts. We have Stacy, whose management skills are really good. And we have a mayor who's willing to take the hard bit. We have the best team. I would hope that because this is such a difficult decision, and because it has been politically put off for so long, as you have pointed out, almost everybody, not everybody, have voted that, or have stated in their running for the council that they wouldn't raise taxes. Now it's time. I hope that the city council, in a statement of support for the city of Parker, will make a unanimous decision today. So this isn't what becomes an election issue. It becomes, how do we finish doing, staying on the course that we're on? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Anybody else? It's 6:20. Okay, we have a first and a second on the floor. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Barrow?
No.
Mr. Chappell?
Yes.
Ms. Galbraith?
Yes.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes. Thank you, council, and thank you for all of you for your time.